Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1335 of the Locked on Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Tuesday, October 25th. And today's podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to, and they help you to do it faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. And also, as we always do on the podcast, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast across podcast platforms and make us your first listen each and every day. Check us out at Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher, and also on the video side over at YouTube. Today's show is going to be myself and Tyler Jones. We recorded the show on Monday. Keep that in mind. Nothing really should have changed. The Hawks were off on Monday from practice before returning to the Emory facility on Tuesday in advance of their road trip to Detroit and beyond, a 5-game trip. Cover that in detail on Sunday evening's podcast, a breakdown of what was a maddening loss for the Hawks against the Hornets at home. But we've had actually 6 shows in the last 7 days or so, even before this one. So a full archive to catch up on at this point in time. But please subscribe to the podcast. And after the intro, I'll be back with myself and fan favorite, Tyler Jones.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I am joined once again by my friend and often co-host Tyler Jones. Hello, sir. How are you?
The Phillies, Brad.
Oh, no. I was wondering if it was going to be Phillies or Braves or Falcons or what we're going to do here at the beginning. But
Falcons don't have a quarterback that can throw a pass.
The Falcons threw 13 passes yesterday, and they were losing the whole game.
I called him Mariota. Mariota cannot deal with a pass rush. That's the issue. From what I'm seeing, it's like I'm pretty sure he's fine in practice, but in the game situation, he just cannot handle it, and so he's not processing the field properly. But that's football. Baseball. The Phillies doing well, that hurts because they're not even. I don't even think they're that good of a baseball team, but it's the playoffs, and it typically just comes down to who's hot, and nobody can get their guys out now. So
it's all true. That's all true. But alas, we have stayed on brand by talking about everything else. But it's time for some Hawks talk. 3 games in the books. The Hawks are 2-1. If that's all you knew, you'd be like, all right. They're playing fine, and it's not been too bad. I was predictably trying to get people to not panic over the loss on Sunday. I guess that was sort of a fruitless endeavor. People were pretty mad after the game on Sunday. It's only the 3rd game of the season. It is what it is. But I wonder how you're feeling as a resident Hawks fan on this podcast. What's the temperature over there at this point?
No different than how I felt the first 2 games. Overall, I'm excited for this team. I'm still excited for this team. DeJounte Murray looks incredible. That's the biggest takeaway. He's just, you want to talk about a two-way player. Incredible. He's just a really good. I didn't know he was this good of a basketball player. If there are things I can criticize about him, I would like to either see him take more 3-pointers or get to the free throw line a bit more on the offensive end, but it's hard to complain with his production. He's kind of Mr. Do with everything, and something the Hawks have needed from a wing-sized player, really since the Joe Johnson era Hawks. They haven't had this type. They haven't had this type of basketball player with this level of size. Do basically everything on the floor. So, there's still things he can improve on. Like I said, you do wish he shot be a bit more aggressive with his three-pointer, and get to the not settle as much for these middies, but he's a good mid-range shooter. So it's it's kind of that give and take. Whereas you can only complain so much about a guy's offensive shot selection, but overall he's been excellent. We're not going to talk about DeAndre Hunter's contract.
We can if you want to. I guess we have not done that on this podcast. We talked about it offline a little bit. And by the way, just before we get to that, I am not at all worried about Trae Young. We'll spend very little time on Trae on this podcast. I know he's been pretty bad by his standards. First 3 games, I don't really care. I'm not worried about Trae.
It's funny. The 3rd game, he was actually really good. The shot still wasn't falling, but he was.
Yeah, he's just not making shots.
He's a lot better than 3rd game than the first 2, but he still can't make an open. He's not. His 3-point attempts aren't that difficult relative to the type of attempts we're used to seeing him from. He's just not. Ball's just not going in for him. So
he's also shooting 37% on twos so far this season.
That's a bigger concern, and that leads to the biggest issue of this team, which is just the lack of 3-point shooting.
Oh, really? Do they have a lack of 3-point shooting? A lack of spacing on this team? Who would have possibly seen that coming? I don't know if that was a topic over the summer.
You trade Kevin Huerter for a draft pick and cap space. I feel like there might be a downside risk of why you get, the Holidays. I think the Holidays have been fine, but offensively, clearly Trae Young is dealing with way more traffic, and like the Trae Young, Holidays, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella lineups. I don't know what Trae Young's supposed to do there. Like, it's not. Is it that surprising he's struggling in his 2-point field goal percentage with that level of spacing that he's playing with? I'm not that shocked, and I think there's a lot of talks we're talking about right now, but like, I do think Bogey either needs to come back sooner, which I don't think is going to happen, or Nate's going to have to make a change in this rotation because the shooting is not there, and like Trae Young's field goal percentage is suffering because of it. So maybe if he, a certain, Duke, another Duke rookie gets his chance, maybe that could change. But there's a lot to get to, even though it's only been 3 games. So
yeah, I mean, and the thing is, general caveats apply. Like, no reason to like overreact to 3 games. Like, there's stuff that's notable for sure. Like the spacing stuff, I'm kind of making fun of it, but it has been pretty evident that the space on the floor is a little bit more constricted with the current roster. I will say that the Trae lineups have actually still worked okay. It's been whenever Trae's off the floor, like they have I think it's a 96 offensive rating with Trae off the floor, which is a familiar refrain. Obviously, it's been the case forever. It's not like Murray's going to help that a lot. I'm not worried about it. But the Murray bench lineups are even more challenged. Like, if you think about that, at least you have Trae on the floor with those groups that you mentioned, the Holiday, Jalen groups. If it's Murray and those guys, there's even less spacing because at least Trae can shoot, and Murray can shoot, but not like Trae. Yeah, it's a challenge. We'll probably have our own AJ Griffin section on this podcast, I would imagine. But I don't know. You mentioned Hunter's contract. Do you want to get into that? Do you have any takes left? It's been a week and a half at this point.
I mean, no real. I brought it up, but there's nothing really to say. Like, I felt like if you're committed to the guy, you might as well just pay him now. Like, you're not going to get it. I mean, we saw how inflated the rookie contract extension market got, even for non-max.
It's only going to go up too. It's only going to keep going up.
It's only going to go higher just because, and it's like, if you're committed to DeAndre Hunter being the starting small forward for the foreseeable future, and none of their moves have suggested they have any other plan outside of DeAndre Hunter, you got to pay him. So, and it was one of those things where it's like, I was hearing Nate and John talk about it, and they were saying there's very little upside for the Hawks, but I felt like, I don't know, the opportunity cost. What else were they going to do? Like, it's a two-pronged thing where there are no guys of DeAndre Hunter's size and skill level making mid-level. Like, that era is nobody's making the mid. If you're a good basketball player, like if you even just have the skills of a good basketball player, like a Harrison Barnes type.
At the 3, especially, like that's the thing about, I think it was Nate Duncan that said that. So he did say that as a counterpoint. Like, look, the Cavs are a great example of this, and he used that example. Like, they've been looking for a mid-level 3 for 3 years, and those guys don't exist. Like, if you want a starter at the 3, you can't use the mid-level. And maybe if you are already a contender, maybe if you're the Lakers, maybe you can wield that and maybe get somebody like just to come to your ready-made team. But that's not going to be the case in Atlanta. Well, you know what I'm saying. Like, the appeal,
the 05 Lakers.
Well, maybe the Heat or whatever you want to say it is. Like, there's always a team out there that, like, maybe you get the discount because they're like a title contender.
Yeah.
But no, it is what it is. Like I said it. I think I kind of see the lack of upside argument, but I'm very committed to this, and I believe it very strongly. If he has a good season, and he looks pretty good so far, we talk about that. If he has a good season, he would have gotten $100 million plus. I have no doubt about it in my mind. Zero doubt in my mind. Zero. So
yeah, I mean, cause it was just funny because I'm just harping off their conversation because they were then you move on to the Andrew Wiggins discussion. He got his he got his money. They talk about how he took less.
he did.
And
I
you
think he
think
did.
about, but when you think about the quality of player Andrew Wiggins actually is, and it's like, yeah, he did take less than what he probably could have gotten because like just that archetype of a basketball player, there's just so few guys. It's why the Sacramento Kings took Keegan Murray with the 4th overall pick.
It's why the Hawks drafted 2 of them in the same draft, just trying to find one. I mean, honestly, yeah, it would have been great if they hit on both Hunter and Reddish, but the whole idea there is like hopefully one of these guys pops.
Yeah.
And they're hoping Hunter's going to get there. But yeah, I mean, we can sort of finish on Hunter now. How do you think he's looked? I mean, do you have thoughts? I think it's kind of been a little bit similar to previous years, but he's been more assertive. He's shooting the ball well at the rim, which is encouraging. Rebounding a little bit more, which is good. That's a nice little step forward we've seen. It's like I think it's been like a B+ so far in 3 games. He's not been like incredible, but he looks good to me.
Only thing I criticize really is you wish he was a bit more aggressive outside of having calls specifically called for him. I know they did that with the Hornets in the second half where they called the DeAndre Hunter package 5 straight possessions or something. And I'm like, all right, why are we running the offense through DeAndre Hunter? I would like for DeAndre Hunter, if he wants to get his opportunities, to be more assertive by, grabbing the defensive rebound or even just simply bringing the ball up the floor. I think there's some stuff he can do as an individual to be more, assertive on the offensive end, particularly, when they kind of needed somebody to step up on that side of the ball. Even though, I mean, they were good offensively, but like they very clearly had some issues that I think he could have helped with.
They do tend to go through these spells when Nate is mismatch hunting and looking for, like in the Orlando game, it happened too. Like right out of the gate, it was him against Terrence Ross, and they were like very obviously going at that matchup, which is probably the right thing to do. Terrence Ross is a bad defender, but like when it's not there, like when it's not that obvious, give it to Hunter situation, he kind of disappears. But that's okay. I think it's okay if he's kind of a low usage guy in certain matchups too. Like it's not a big deal. He's been a little bit more decisive. I think the handle looks a little bit better. Part of that's probably health and the wrist and all that stuff. But like, I don't know. I think he looks the part of what I thought he was going to be. Anytime you sign an extension, there's this part of the fan base that's like thinking he's going to be this different player now, and he's not a different player. He's just hopefully better and healthier. Is what it is.
But like overall, it's a little to complain about. I feel like he's been kind of this is the good DeAndre Hunter that the Hawks have gotten through 3 games, and hopefully he can just stay healthy and be relatively consistent on both ends of the floor. It's just you wish he was a bit more dynamic defensively, a bit more of a playmaker, and really on both ends. It was nice to see him rack up the assists last game, all things considered, but like even I think this is something that Glenn and Kevin actually talked about on their podcast. And by the way, if you're not listening to ATL and 29, you're a Hawks fan, you are doing yourself a disservice. They do
Agreed.
They do incredible work of really getting into the meat and potatoes of the games and the tactical aspects of the game. So if you're a Hawks fan, you're not listening to that, you're doing yourself a big disservice. But they talked about how DeAndre needs to I forgot my point. I completely forgot. It was something about DeAndre Hunter, and I'm with you on it now. They said something.
You were just trying to be too nice to Kevin. That's all.
Yeah,
it was.
that's the problem. That's the problem. Oh, my old co-host Kevin.
It's okay. No, Kevin. I will echo that. Kevin and Glenn are very smart, and I'm sure it'll come back up at some point. All right. Before we get to some other stuff, a word from our sponsors on today's podcast. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And these days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates that are available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs right now. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team, and they do it faster and for free. I've had to hire a few different times, actually, in the last couple of years. LinkedIn Jobs has been an awesome resource. It's very easy to use. And honestly, you can create a free job post at LinkedIn Jobs very quickly as well. They have high-quality candidates that you need to locate to make the best possible hire for you and your position. Then once you're set up, add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're actually hiring. LinkedIn Jobs also has simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates that actually have the right skills and experience. You can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. You want to finish the year strong, and finding the right team member is a key piece of doing just that. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires against leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to, and they help you to do it faster. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. That is LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Tyler, let us get into something else, and that is the reaction to Sunday's game. When my general point was they didn't play that well defensively, I didn't think, against the Hornets, but it was also kind of a very trademark NBA make or miss league kind of game when the Hornets made a bunch of shots and the Hawks made very few. Did you see something different than that? I don't want to say it wasn't all that. They had some issues, like defensive rebounding wise was not good in the game. But what did you make of the loss? Because, a lot of focus on the first two wins, and they weren't the prettiest ones in the world, but then there was the predictable panic after the loss on Sunday.
I mean, the Hawks are a transition team through their best offensive flow happens when they get a stop, either through a turnover or a defensive rebound. They push the break and start their early offense, because the half-court offense just hasn't been as crisp as what we've been used to from Trae Young-led Hawks team. So, but the Hornets weren't missing shots, and when they were missing shots, the Hawks couldn't grab contested rebounds. I tweeted about this before coming on to the podcast, but the bench had 3 combined rebounds. The entirety of the bench. That includes Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson. And those were the 3 guys. Those were between them. They only had 3 rebounds, and nobody else. Aaron Holiday had 0. Justin Holiday had 0. And even the bench mob guys didn't have 0. But that was whatever time. But defensive rebounding might be an issue for this team if Jalen Johnson isn't going to be more assertive on the defensive side of the basketball floor, because he's been pretty bad.
Well, and that's one of the arguments for playing Jalen is his rebounding, because Okongwu, while I think he will get better, is not going to be a plus defensive rebounder at center. I don't think this season. That's a conservative statement to make. I think, there was this whole, you wouldn't have seen this, but a lot of the reaction, especially the comments and stuff replied to me, was to talk about we're back to the not a true center thing with Okongwu in some corners of the Hawks fan base. And I get it. He's small, but I don't worry about that. But Jalen's got to rebound.
But just an aside, the defensive rebounding issues against the Hornets was not on the centers.
No, I agree.
They were contested, they were contesting so many shots because the perimeter defense was just giving up dribble penetration a bit too easy. That's just what was happening during the game.
Yep.
There was some weird positional stuff with both Okongwu and Capella, I thought, where they were overplaying Plumlee, but I think that was a response to the Hornet shot making, where it's okay, we gotta cut off their oxygen somewhere on these off-screen screening action.
It was kind of like last year, actually.
Yeah.
The whole they were basically asking Capella and Okongwu to just do way too much in terms of covering up for other guys. There was not a lot of resistance on the perimeter. Yes.
And so what was happening, if John Collins wasn't in the game, it was just over.
And that was also indicative, in the numbers too. John wasn't great offensively yesterday, but defensively he was quite good. I thought he was.
I felt like John at one point in the first half challenged basically every layup attempt the Hornets took, and
he had 3 blocks in 6 minutes too in the second quarter at one point. He was
an aside, defensively, he's playing some incredible basketball. And he's getting it's something that he hasn't done is he's getting his hands on a lot of basketballs. like getting steals, getting a lot of deflections. That's not something we're used to seeing from John. So that might be an indicator of the improved perimeter defense that the team has been playing overall. But like the Hornets game, the perimeter defense regressed. That led to me defensive breakdowns. And like I was saying, like Jalen's not taking ownership of his minutes. Like he's just not being an impactful basketball player. He's kind of just out there floating, not where he's supposed to be, not causing havoc plays on defense and not playing with physicality on offense. Like too much. It's just too passive from him. The Hawks, like compare his minutes to what, even though AJ Griffin only played like 5, like it was really like what 3 or 4 competitive minutes.
I think it was about 4.5 when he came in the fourth quarter.
Like,
and even then, competitive, they were down 20, but it came in.
But even with that, he was playing with DeJounte Murray and John Collins, and like he was taking ownership of the game. Like he was getting it after it on defense. He got beat a couple times, but like you felt him physically on defense. Then on the offensive end, he was aggressive. He was aggressive with his shot taking, and he was also aggressive with his handle. Like he was looking for opportunities to score, looking, to make an impact on the game. And that's something I kind of want to see more from Jalen. Like he's a better basketball player than what he's shown, but he's not playing with that force and that athleticism and that physicality that they really need. Like it's just too, like it's just too much. I'm in the background for these other guys. Like he's got to be more assertive. Because right now, John Collins is playing too many minutes, and DeJounte Murray is playing too many minutes. Like they just, like I think through 3 games, they're averaging like 37 plus minutes a night from those 2 guys.
And Nate's not going to fool around with that. I think there's pretty good signs Nate's going to push to win games by playing guys real minutes this year. Whether that's good or not is debatable. Of course, you'll win more, but it also might tax your guys. They haven't had any back-to-backs yet. They're finally going on the road now, so we'll see if that changes at all when they go on the road, when they're not just going home every night. But yeah, I think the Jalen thing is a good point in that, this is part of the concern last year on why they didn't play Jalen, because he's not the guy necessarily that's the most plug and play. He has a pretty distinct skill set. Like you don't want him to be a super low usage guy on offense, because a lot of his best skills are with the ball in his hands. And that's the kind of the trade-off. And it's kind of difficult because he's maybe not good enough to have the ball in his hands. And kind of like Trey and Murray, we talked about earlier, he's a guy that needs space around him too, because he's not the best shooter in the world. You got a non-shooting center next to him. I know Okongwu took a couple of jump shots yesterday, but he's still, for now, mostly a non-shooter. Capella is a non-shooter. And like Jalen is, he's not the most like picture perfect role player. Like he kind of needs some stuff molded to him, which I like the talent. We've all talked about the talent a lot, but on offense right now, I don't know what he does in the half court. Like they don't really have a plan for him in the half court offense.
They need to have a come together moment and be like, okay, if Jalen's going to be in the game, he's got to at least bring the ball up the floor, get him involved in the action early, just so that he can get a feel for the flow of the action of the game. Because right now, he's not, like, they're asking him to play the John Collins role, and he's like a completely different basketball player.
And he also can't stand in the corner. He can't play the Gallo role either. He can't just be a floor spacer because he's not a good enough shooter. Like, you want him to shoot those shots, and I will say to his credit, he's taken a few, like, no hesitation, catch and shoot threes, and he's got to take those. But he's not a spot-up guy either right now. So,
you want him driving to the rim or catching, lob opportunities, or, just being the force that he is with his size and his handle. That's what you want from him. But right now he's kind of just out there floating, and he's not really getting involved in the action. And it's like noticeable because you're like, oh boy, how long can the Hawks go without John Collins on the floor? It's just, and that's like, that's an issue.
And I think Jalen's very obviously number 9 of 9. Like in terms of like Nate's trust level, I think he's played the fewest minutes in all 3 games of all the bench guys. Maybe he played more than Aaron yesterday. No, he didn't, because of Griffin's minutes. But even then, even with Griffin taking some of Aaron Holiday's minutes in the fourth quarter, Aaron Holiday still played more than Jalen did. So like, I think they basically are using Jalen. It's only when John's off the floor. They're never playing together, which is not a surprise. But like, with as much as John is playing, he's very much penciled into like that 12 to 14 minute a game role. And it's not like the worst thing to do. I think if you're trying to win and that's like your only goal, that's probably what he should be playing, because John should be playing a lot of minutes. But do you want to grow him? Like, do you want to invest in him? That's the thing about Nate in general, is like he's not a development guy. Like he's kind of said that. Like the time for development was over was the quote last year. It's like, okay, you got a lot of young players, Nate. You probably don't want to say that out loud. But yeah, I hope that they kind of see that on film and maybe like, all right, we're gonna play Jalen and let's make it a little bit easier for him to like get some stuff going, because you want him to have the ball more often. And we've talked about it before, you and I, like maybe you give him the ball as more of a playmaker on that second unit sometimes. Like maybe you intentionally let him handle more and just kind of see where that leads you. Like Murray's obviously a much better option, but on that second unit, you could argue he's the second best creator. I know Aaron Holiday has the ball in his hand some, but like Jalen's got a lot of creation equity, and Aaron's more of a plug and play guy.
Well, here's the thing: he's playing most of his minutes alongside Trae Young, though.
Yeah,
if we're being
with the way they staggered it, like
with
the last couple games. Yeah, the first game not as much, but the last two for sure.
They're very clearly like John Collins and DeJounte Murray are the pairing that goes to the second unit, try to uplift that second unit bench lineup. And so, like, to me, it's like, even if all Jalen is doing is token bringing the ball up the floor, like, let's just do that, just so that he can, move around and get into the flow of the game. Because right now he's just standing in the corner, not doing anything, not having any real impact on the game. So that's something. But, like, the bigger issue to me with Jalen is his defense. Like, he's just not where he's supposed to be on the floor. It's very obvious when John Collins leaves the floor that defensive breakdowns, where they're coming from, where the help isn't coming from with Jalen in particular. And, like, to me, it's like he's got to be more assertive on the defensive side of the floor. Like, he's like one rebound from him last game, that's inexcusable. Like that,
and he's got a rebound too. That's the thing. Like,
simply has to rebound. Like, because like you look at this roster, the good rebounders outside of your centers are DeJounte Murray and John Collins, and like nobody else is going to grab a contested rebound except you, Jalen. So he's got to be more impactful on the end of the floor, and we've seen it from him. But it's just one of those things where it's like, if I'm not in part of, like, he's a young like that's what the thing with young basketball players, if they're not in part of the flow of the offense, the defense is what wanes. That's just how it goes with a lot of these young guys. So hopefully he can get more of a footing on both sides of the floor, because they need him. Like we going back to the DeAndre Hunter at the 4.
No, they might do that. I mean, and I'm going to ask you about AJ in a second, but that's one of the ideas that's been kind of out there. I'll sort of tease that for when we come back from this next break. But we will have some AJ Griffin discussion, I promise you, everybody, and some lineup stuff and some overall looking ahead to the road trip as well. But first, our last break on the podcast to hear from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. Football season is ongoing here in late October, and BetOnline is the number one source for all of the pro and college football betting needs and everything else that you're looking for this season. Find all the latest developments and game matchups and the news and the podcast you're craving at BetOnline. That includes all the stuff that you need for the weekend slate that is upcoming. And BetOnline also has the wagering information, including live betting and esports and live scores that you're looking for. And BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to consume all of the sports that you have interest in. Of course, if you listen to this podcast, you are definitely an NBA fan and a Hawks fan, and there's plenty to focus on in that space as well. They have game lines and props every single night, and future bets are still available on who's going to win the East and the West and the NBA title, player award stuff, and more. And beyond the NBA, BetOnline has odds and lines on college sports and baseball, MMA, boxing, golf, tennis, auto racing, horse racing. They have soccer, entertainment bets, and much more. Head to BetOnline right now on your mobile device or on your computer to learn more about all of the trends and the action in the sports world. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Tyler. So the AJ Griffin thing has been discussed a lot. It's probably the number one topic on Hawks Twitter right now that I've seen people asking me repeatedly to like follow up with Nate on this and see what, he did get asked kind of about it. It was kind of just a general rotation question. And I played the audio for everybody on Sunday night. He basically said our nine's our 9. And he did say, AJ they tried him on in the fourth quarter for some juice. That's been a topic going back to the summer about like maybe with Bogey out, they're going to have to play Jalen, and maybe to play AJ, and they'll be forced to do that. What do you make of that? Because for me, there are probably only 2 options for this. I want to know what you think. Some Hawks fans that I've seen have focused on AJ Griffin versus Justin Holiday, and that is not the discussion I think needs to be had, because Justin Holiday is going to play. Justin Holiday is better than Aaron Holiday at basketball. And I think it's really more likely that they go to an AJ instead of Aaron Holiday. And honestly, it'd be more likely that they play Aaron over Jalen, AJ over Jalen. Just because if you do that, you can kind of slide Hunter to the 4. Justin's slight, but he's played a little bit of 4 in his career. And if you're just going like basketball players Nate trusts, you can argue against this. I'm not saying this is the right thing. I think Nate's going to default to the guys he trusts more. I'm not sure Jalen's on that list. So I wonder what you think of like all those options. Because like I do think that they should try AJ Griffin at some point, just for the offensive the shooting stuff is just so very obvious to me. They don't have enough of it in the second unit, but he's still a rookie, and there's the whole business.
I mean, yeah, but like the fourth quarter felt like beginning the fourth quarter with a guy who hasn't played. Like AJ Griffin went from not playing to, all right, clearly I have to try something on offense because right now
we're down 20 and we have to try to do some variance and push it.
Like,
and
let's
go ahead.
get AJ Griffin in there, and like offense has been the issue. And I'm like, to me, you need this team needs somebody who's a drop dead knockdown 3-point shooter, a guy who's willing to take 3-pointers as well. Like, you sent me like the shot chart of what the Hawks were taking, and like it's pretty bad. Like it's a lot of mid-rangers, it's not a lot of stuff at the rim. And like my thought was like, one, it's probably going to regress, during like they did this last year to start the season where they took
it will.
And like it'll regress, but also it's an acknowledgement of the quality of shot takers that you have on the team. Like it's not like you don't have good jump shooters, but you have a bunch of guys who, like AJ Griffin's a guy who will space 28 feet from the 28 feet from the rim, compared to John Collins and DeAndre Hunter, who are a foot on the line 3-point shooters.
And like Justin Holiday is the same thing. Justin Holiday, they're asking Justin Holiday to be their best shooter on that unit, and that's not what you want. Like he can shoot. Justin Holiday is an adequate NBA wing shooter. He'll take them when he's open. He'll make enough of them, but like he can't be your best shooter, and he is on that second unit. That's not where you want. That's not what you want.
So I think to me, like, all right, we're gonna have to sacrifice because I still like Aaron. Like in a vacuum, I like Aaron Holiday as a basketball player. I'd probably like him more. However, if he played alongside some actual shooting, and it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like we got a team full of drivers. Like Aaron Holiday and the Aaron Holiday DeJounte Murray lineups probably need to go because they're too similar. Like they operate in the same spaces to me. So like to me, I'm like, let's help these DeJounte Murray led second units by getting a real space on the floor with AJ Griffin. And like this is not even a matter of like this isn't even me like I want to see young guys. This is more of like just the skill that AJ Griffin has compared to everybody else on this team. He's the only guy we got. Like until Bogey, and like we don't know when Bogey's coming back. So like from my vantage point, I'm like, and like if you're willing, and like to me, I feel like I wouldn't be, and I felt like this before Game 3. Like I thought there was a chance that AJ could play even over even Jalen Game 3 because the Hornets play a smaller lineup. Granted, they really needed Jalen to step up on the defensive glass because that's where they lost the game on the defensive glass. Like they just couldn't. Outside of John and DeJounte Murray, nobody could contest a rebound. But like, so like Jalen probably still has to play just because you need that size. So like, all right, we got to get shooting. We got to insert shooting somewhere into this line. And like AJ to me would really help the game be a bit more easier for everybody else if we just have a guy who teams are scared of. Because that's the problem. Like nobody is scared of these DeJounte Murray lineups on offense outside of transition buckets in the half court because it's just a bunch of mid-range. It's a bunch of guys shooting mid-range or it's like John Collins pick and roll. Okay, he swings it to Justin Holiday. Like teams will live with Justin Holiday taking spot up 3-point shooting.
They're gonna have to too. I mean, it's too early for me to care too much about this. But 3 games in, the guys with the worst on-off numbers are Aaron Holiday and Jalen Johnson.
Yeah,
and that's backed up if you watch the games. Like they've been the 2 worst players for the Hawks this year. It's pretty obvious to me. So, yeah, I think if I had to choose what they should do, matchup independent, let's just say a random opponent, I would try AJ over Aaron Holiday in the next game, and maybe they'll do that. And maybe it won't be all the time. Like Nate's been married to this 9, and he kind of gave a pretty defiant answer about those 9 after the game last night. But maybe with some more film, he changes that. And maybe he goes to 10 some. Like there's no reason he can't play 10 guys. Like Nate's been willing to play 10 or 11 guys at times. It's happened last year. He was probably playing too many guys last year at times. So maybe that's what it is too. But I think that they need to kind of actively plan some minutes for AJ Griffin. And I am not the guy ever that's like calling for rookies. Like he's not going to save the day. He's still a rookie. Like I don't think he's going to be, transcendent player right now, but the shooting stuff is really concerning. And look, Bogey would solve a lot of these issues. We talked about it a lot. If they had Bogey, it'd be a lot easier.
I mean, Brad, you can see that's big picture. That's kind of what's exciting about this team.
Right. If they had Bogey.
You see the DeJounte Murray, Bogdanovich, John Collins lineup. That's going to do some damage against second units. But the problem is right now is DeJounte Murray, John Collins. And if they're not getting it in transition, it's just too easy to get those guys to settle for mid-range jumpers because that's what's available to them. So, like, to me, I tweeted that before the game. I was like, how long can Nate go without, playing AJ Griffin? Because the three-point shooting volume and three-point shooting percentage are clearly the canary in the coal mine. Like they're not taking enough three-pointers and they're not making them. So like, let's get our best three-point shooter out there on the floor, play him more. And maybe if you get, and like my thing is, you get AJ Griffin out there, he's so obviously going to help your offense in such a way that you can probably reduce the minutes of your DeJounte Murrays and your Trae Youngs. So you're not playing them 38 every game.
They might do that anyway.
They might do that anyway, but I'm just saying, like, you give yourself a wider margin of error because, hey, now we're making our three-point shots. Now we're getting these big leads. We're demoralizing these teams because we are still getting stops on defense. Even with AJ Griffin on the floor because he's playing with DeJounte Murray. He's playing with John Collins. He's playing with Onyeka Okongwu, Clint Capella, et cetera, Justin Holiday. Like he's playing with good foundational, lineups. Even if he's going to be playing alongside Trae Young as well. But like, I just want to see it because I feel like, preseason included, he's looked really like just outside of anything, he's looked really good. Like he looks like he knows what he's doing on the offensive end. And it's very for a. Is he 19? Like I think
he's still 19. I'm looking now, but yeah, I think he's still 19. He might be 20 now.
No. He was.
He's 19. He started 19. I had it in my head. I kept calling him an 18-year-old all summer, and then he suddenly turned 19. I had to forget that, but not yet. He just turned 19.
Him and Jalen Duren were the two youngest guys in the draft, so it's like.
Also, to your point earlier, by the way, I just found this. I'm going to have you guess. Can you guess what the Hawks currently rank in transition frequency offensively? How often they're in transition?
Is it 65%?
The Hawks are number 1 in the NBA. Last year, they were 24th. The year before that, they were 20th. But they've been so bad in the half court that people haven't really noticed this yet because like the numbers don't look great offensively. But it's crazy like how good they've been in transition and how often they've been in transition. And that's the Murray effect. That's the creating turnovers effect. And some opponent stuff too, like Houston kicked the ball around the entire game. But like it's a different team offensively in a lot of ways.
And that's what's exciting. Like, they're getting easy points in transition. It's just the half-court offense has been bad. That's why we're going like, hey, AJ just kind of probably needs to play until Bogey's healthy. But like
they have an 89 offensive rating in the half court. That's not gonna work, man. Like they got to figure some stuff out.
But we know Trae Young has a track record. Like,
of course,
we know this is going to get better. We know during the season that number is going to go up, and like they're going to become the dominant offensive team that we expect them to be on the offensive end. I'm not that worried about their half court offense, but it's just like to me, it's just very obvious they have a spacing issue, and it would help if AJ Griffin played. But like macro, like the way they're getting shots in transition, John Collins had another full court opportunity, like where he got fouled, like. I think it was off a steal or something, and like against the Hornets, where he drove the ball all the way to the front of the rim and got Like, if
Yeah, how about your guy coast to coast a couple times already this season? Just
that's
like grabbing going.
Like, that's 2 more times than he's done throughout all
his career.
So, like, that's different, and maybe the new transition fouls might be helping the Hawks in that regards. Like,
It
teams
is.
they've
mentioned that too. They've acknowledged that. Like, I think they've also smartly played into it to where, like, Nate's got a reputation for kind of being a grinder. He's got them playing. He's trying to push them, and he said it. Like, DeJounte loves to grab and go. They've got this mindset now to push it, and that's the right thing to do, I think, in my mind. Especially with they've got a lot of runouts. I mean, I'm sure you noticed this too. A lot of like 1-on-0 fast breaks that might have been stopped by those take fouls, and they've just been pushing it down people's throats, which is good because it's kind of offset the half court stuff. But I don't know. I'm with you. I think overall, I don't worry about the offense. Like, it's not been good. We've kind of picked it apart a little bit on this podcast, and they have a 108 offensive rating. That's not going to get it done. But between Trey getting better, they'll find some more balance on the second unit. Maybe you throw AJ in there, and eventually Bogey's going to come back. That'll help a lot too. I'm not worried. It's just we're trying to talk about what's happened so far and what it looks like.
I mean, it's just kind of clearly the issue, but like,
yep.
I mean, overall, they're playing good. Like, to me, they're playing good basketball. Like, especially defensively. Like, it's very last game aside, but even last game, like. It
was basically 2 quarters in the Charlotte game. Their numbers for the season, again, it's a 3-game sample size, but I think they're in the top 10 defensive rating right now. Some of that's maybe adjusted for playing 3 bad opponents, but
it's the beginning of the season. They've
played fine defensively, generally speaking.
Like, to me, 1, it's the beginning of the season, and 2, like, every team is going through some random struggle they don't expect to be going throughout a full 82.
It's October.
But like, to me, like, they're playing, like, their process on defense is a lot better. Like, they're walling guys off consistently. They're getting their hands on basketballs, and that's just making it's them causing so many turnovers is making life so much easier for this team. If they can clean up the defensive glass when John Collins is off the floor, I think that's kind of like, if we want to talk about a sneaky problem, is that when DeJounte Murray and John Collins are off the floor, somebody has to step up as a rebounder. And, Okongwu got to be better. Capella has to be better. Like, Capella's not. I mean, he's challenging shots, but, like, he's not. He could probably be a bit better, but, like, overall, like, they're challenging so many shots, or they need somebody else to help them on the glass. And so, like, I'd like to see. Hunter's been better. I'd like to see more from him, but just overall, like, they got to be, if they want to be the team they want to be defensively, like, they can just clean up the defensive glass issues. I think they have a chance to be really good, but we'll see. They really need Jalen to step up, though. Like, that, to me, like, we want to.
In a lot of ways, I mean, rebounding, defensive execution, a little bit more juice on offense. Because, like, if they were to stay with the 9 they've been using and not go to Griffin, one of the ways to kind of paper over the shooting is to maybe put the ball in Jalen's hands more. I do think that's an idea. If they for some reason don't trust Griffin yet, he's a rookie and all that. I'm not advocating that, but if they want to stay with these 9, I do think that using Jalen more on offense would be a smart decision. So
that, and run more action for Collins.
You always want more action for Collins. You're always going to want that. It is what it is. But he's been good so far. I mean, he obviously missed a bunch of shots on the game on Sunday, but he's still shooting. Even with a 3 of 12 game, he's shooting 55% from the floor and averaging 19 and 10 so far. So a strong start for perpetually on the trade block. John Collins still playing well.
Yeah,
good basketball player. Weird.
It's shocking. It's almost as if he's very good at basketball, and Travis Slink keeps getting lucky and not trading him.
The funniest thing is that he and DeAndre Hunter are making similar money moving forward. And John Collins is quite a bit better than DeAndre Hunter at basketball.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
It is what it is.
It's the tax allegations that
we have to do everything comes back to John Collins on this podcast when you and I talk. And they could also, I mean, I kind of needled this a little bit on Twitter today, but who would really help them right about now? Outside of Bogey, who would obviously help them, they could probably use Kevin Huerter.
They could have used DeLon Wright as well.
Well, that too, and those were both tax avoidance moves because they could have paid DeLon whatever they wanted to. Bird rights, baby. and they didn't want to do it. So at the end of the day, when you're making decisions based on ducking the luxury tax, you are making yourself worse sometimes. So that's
and
happens.
It goes back to like, okay, if you're not going to pay those guys and you're going to let them go for tax purposes, then you got to play your young guys. I mean, that's just
and I mean it's so conflicting because I thought did a good job. If they did a good job working around the tax constraints, I thought.
Yeah.
Now I hate the tax constraints. Like that's not acceptable. But if your owner says we're not going to pay the tax this year, you have to do what the owner says, and you get under. And through that lens, they did a pretty good job, I thought, in making their team with that constriction. But you're right. Like when your only remaining shooter in a non-bogey world is AJ Griffin, you got to get over the fact that he's 19 years old and just throw him out there. So,
it's funny. I wonder if they pay the tax if the Warriors tax bill wasn't so high, though.
The Warriors and the Clippers.
The
Clippers are up there too, man.
It's a lot of money to pass up as somebody who
I tried to say that. Like
I understand. Like as a businessman,
sure,
I understand why they're not paying the tax. It's just you're going to have games like this where you very clearly need somebody from the bench to step up, and we're relying on Justin Holiday to be that guy. Like that's just not going to do it. So
no.
So it's like.
I am pro Justin Holiday.
Huerter's looking incredible for the Kings. It's unfortunate. Kevin Huerter continues to play for basketball teams that ask him to guard
threes
and fours for some reason. Like it's just like I was watching the game. I think against the Clippers, he had to guard Marcus Morris. I'm like, why is he guarding Marcus Morris?
They have no one else.
I'm like, because Keegan Murray has to guard Paul George, and then it's like they have De'Aaron Fox. And Davion Mitchell on the floor at the same time with Sabonis. I'm like, oh God, like Kevin Huerter is just never gonna avoid that he's a bad defender if he's having to guard guys
exactly
2 times his size. So it's just
context is important. All right, we've gone into locked on Kevin Huerter territory. Let's move on now. But Tyler, thank you for all the time. We usually go even longer than this, but you and I both have things to do at this particular moment, so we're cutting it off here. But anything to plug? Anime-wise, Twitter-wise, what's going on in the world right now?
Ooh, boy, Bleach is so good, man.
You always have recs for people, and people. I have no idea what you're talking about ever. But
no, so my recommendation is go watch Bleach. It's back. It was a 10 years gone.
10 years. That's a long time.
But Bleach is back, and like they're gonna finish the story. They're gonna finish the the canon plot line. So that's exciting for us, Bleach fans who've been waiting, a decade for it to be animated. So, and like, it's just, I finished my rewatch of the original series, and it's just really good. Like, I can't believe that. I can't believe it got canceled. And I can't believe like we were so down on Bleach because of things outside of Tyke Kubo's control. You have no idea what I'm talking about, Brad. I understand, but like
I don't. It's okay. I'm talking
to the real ones who understand what I'm talking about.
I'm with you.
And like Bleach is incredible. So, and it's a great, it's a great anime season. Like there's a lot of good stuff out there. Chainsaw Man, everybody's hyped about Chainsaw Man. Spy X Family still great. Mob Psycho 100 is back too. Like it's just a great time to be a fan of animes. And like Hunter x Hunter is back too on the manga front. And like, I'm hyped about that. So I'm giddy. I know Brad doesn't care about any of this. He the only thing he's ever watched is Top Gun. So
I did watch that. That was good. Enjoyed that. Enjoyed talking to Eric. I watch stuff. I just watch a lot of sports because it's part of the thing. Man, I gotta watch a football. I gotta watch Patriots Bears tonight as we're recording this on Monday.
You don't have to, but
I have to for work.
Paycheck.
I really do.
You have to.
I know it's not gonna be fun. All right, man. Well,
Justin Fields, man, I'm praying for you, brother.
Yeah, local guy, Justin Fields, not going very well. At least listen, maybe he had a great game because people are not gonna hear this until Tuesday. So maybe he had a great game tonight. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
he recording this podcast
threw for 200 yards.
Yeah. Shots fired at former UGA product, Justin Fields. All right, Tyler. Thank you for joining me on the show. If you want to follow Tyler, he might let you at Jonesy2x4 on Twitter. He is protected, but he will maybe let you through the gates at some point. As for everybody else, follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Hawks. Follow me on Twitter at BT Rowland. We'll have Tyler back on in the very near future, I'm sure. Subscribe to the show, and we'll see y'all next time.